John Pritchard there yet?
He just walked in.
Good, good.
Hi, John, the guru.
You volunteered your services.
Oh dear, what's my services?
Okay, John's sitting down at my computer now.
Right, great.
Good.
But I did get the rest of it.
I have no
going,
idea
John.
what we're
She
even
wants to
talking
be
about. What are
able
you
to
trying to do?
record.
Okay. I want to record on my computer. And
Okay.
so I worked through all these steps this morning and we're at everything except under participants. There should be a button or something that says allow to record local files.
Yep, I just clicked it. You're good.
Oh, it said you just did it, John.
Yep.
Oh gosh, can I give you a hug? Okay, now let me just double check.
Go to Judy's name.
Yep, and I can record.
Yep.
Oh, we're all set.
Okay.
So I gave her the permission to record.
We're all set.
Yep. All right. I'm going to surrender the feedback.
So all good to go, Judy?
I know, right?
Your friends here, Cole, Redmond.
Okay. John gives me back my seat now, and they're taking orders. And you can kind of see them in the distance here, taking their orders. And we'll be starting in just a minute, and then I'll start with the pledge.
Hi, Judy. How are you?
I got some.
I'm gonna try I'm not able to hear any of you.
Yeah.
No, not
She would be
that.
tied up
Sorry.
in there and even
Bowl. I
record.
got you.
Yeah.
And then just ice box. What's that for?
Judy, hang up your phone and then you'll be able to hear back.
Oh, no, I know. I was giving him a chance to talk to.
Okay,
When it's gone, I'll let you know.
Daryl has his set up on the podium, so it's closer to see the guest speaker. But when he had the sound on, and with mine, we were getting feedback, so he was saying hi.
This is where Redmond will be standing. You'll be addressing the group. You'll be able to see him head on. As he's trying to-
One of the bowls.
Judy, Redmond will be standing right here, looking head on to our audience.
But are you gonna have him have the sound down?
No, what if you just introduce yourself?
So you will be able to see him looking at you, and our guest here will be able to see him looking at them. I'm going to mute my button so we don't get feedback locally.
They should be on there. They should be under that.
Okay.
Okay, I tried to mute to keep the feedback, but Daryl's muted now. So the sound is coming from my computer, which is linked into the screen.
Ask them if they can hear okay at home.
Can you hear okay when
I'm good. I'm good.
okay? Because I'll move my computer closer so that his sound will pick up and we'll double check again.
Okay, great.
Are we getting plastic?
Strawberry French toast.
Okay. Oh, she switched up on me.
Yep,
Just strawberries? Or strawberry banana?
no, just strawberry.
Strawberries, okay.
That's it.
That's it, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Hi.
Good morning, how we doing? All right, afternoon, sorry.
You want to give them your order, Daryl? Or Tom? Daryl? It's always confusing at first when everybody's taking their orders and getting done so we can get
It's
started.
fabulous because it makes me feel like I'm there in person.
Okay, you have all the
I love
noise
it.
as usual.
I want to make it feel as much as I can that I'm there in person.
Tom, I'm probably, because we're not allowed to supposedly sit at that table, so we're gonna have to use that one. Yeah, because I'm gonna come join you over there too after we get started. Okay. 2 more coming in. We now have Tom and we've got Joe walking in. Joe, we'll need to let you place your order too. You got Max, Daryl, John, Sue, Shirley's here, Judy's here. I have most everybody. There's 10 of us from our club here right now, plus our guest speaker. And then we have Maurice, one of our members who's online here.
Yes.
Hi, Maurice. Sorry we didn't do it last week. Last week we were assembling racks for our project. So it was kind of a work session. You're on mute, Maurice. Maurice, you're on mute. Dominic, how are you doing? You got your hat on.
I'm good.
Okay. All right. Okay, it's just now a couple minutes, I think, after 12, I think. And we're having to spread out because of which tables we can or cannot sit at, so. Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and start our pledge and all that. And yell the prayer. Okay, wait a minute, we'll wait for Jenna. Pick a spot. Pick a corner, okay. Everybody sort of ready? Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
I
allegiance.
pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the United States of America,
America.
And to
to
the
the
republic
republic for which it stands,
one
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
And
with
just
liberty and justice for all.
justice for all.
Okay. Dear God, just thanks for the many blessings in our lives. Thank you for the opportunity to gather together. We just ask that you would guide and direct our efforts and just bless our time together and bless the food to our bodies. Amen.
Okay, please be seated. Online, were you able to hear the prayer?
Yes.
Okay, we just was trying to see if it picks up okay. I'd like to welcome everybody here today. It's great to see so many good faces and friendly faces today. Well, are you switching seats? Yeah. Okay. Put you all there. I think we can only do what, 6 at a table and we go from there.
I'm only temporary here. I'll be up there.
Oh, you're, Daryl's gonna be the jackrabbit today, jumping up and down in case he wants to change the screen. Okay, quick announcements. We did receive another email about the beer garden. No wine will be served this year. And they still have not gotten the contract
Yes.
yet, but they expected by the
it started.
beginning of May. Oh, wow. And they'll let us know more when we.
Yeah, it was from 12 to 1.
So that's really what we're waiting on right now for this summer's activity.
12 to 1.
Jim and I
Okay.
delivered
Have
last
a good
week's
time. Bye.
project. I feel like I'm getting feedback.
Yeah. I'll let you do it.
Okay.
Yep. Judy, on those calls, if you could hit the mute, we're getting some feedback from you. You know what I mean?
Are you talking to me?
Trying to, I muted myself. We could hear your phone conversations. If you could mute when you're on the call.
I'm sorry.
I'm usually real guilty of that.
I apologize.
We'll continue with announcements. Jim and I, after our service project last week, are putting all those rolling carts together, delivered them over to Slater, and the lady was very receptive. She met us at the door. We didn't even have to ring the bell. She saw us coming and on the sidewalk and from unloading the truck. And she said she was really thankful for everything. Her room was, starting to get set up. She's able to shift things around. Now with the shelves, they can start loading them for the appropriate things. So right now, she said just anything we donate, she'll put in the hub. So that means any toiletries, school supplies, shoes for young kids, clothes that are clean and washed from young kids, they can be used. And, anything that we feel would be appropriate that they would need, toilet, bathroom tissue and all that kind of stuff. So from now until the end of school, if you want to bring things, then I'll run it over to Slater after the meeting for anything that gets donated from the group. Okay, at this point, I'm not going to talk any longer. I'm going to turn it over. No, I'm not. Daryl, I just took a restroom break.
He just stepped out.
He just stepped out. So I was going to have him do introductions. So in the meantime, I'll just talk a little bit more. We're going to have beer, and they're going to do like one beer vendor. At first, they said cans only. Yeah. And then they said at the Rock and Block party, they're going to have 5 brewers, each with 1 keg. And then for the concerts, 1 brewer with 1 keg. So we're not sure what they're doing. And then they said they're not going to do any cash this year. It's all going to be done on a QR code. So we're waiting to see what the contract says, because we're not sure how we're going to be setting it all up. If they're going to be QR coding from their seats or what with their beer, we don't know yet. What is QR code? A QR code is like on the restaurant where you put your phone and it comes up and you order on your phone, just like, and then you just pick it up and you don't have to go through.
Except you have to be like on Samsung Pay or Google Pay.
Or they're gonna, yeah. So the city is the one that's throwing that at us. So we don't know if the beer vendors are gonna get the QR code and then we just serve it, or whether we get the QR code, figure out what we have to serve. We don't know yet. So we're up in the air at the moment. But the good news is we all need to do our TIPS training. So that means online, we need to take the TIPS training to get our little certification card, because we have to be certified in order to work at the beer garden. Now, what I thought I would do is, you didn't hear me say cheat. Nobody online quote me. I thought I'd go on and renew mine and take really extensive notes. And then I thought I'd do a PowerPoint for everybody and kind of pre-train you before you all go online. And since I've taken the test, even though they shift the test, it's like they have a lot of questions and they say pull up 50 questions and it pulls. It'll give you an idea on some of the questions and stuff. So I thought that's the best I can do for you all for training for the TIPS. So that's what I plan to do, and then make up a slideshow and kind of pre-train us, and then you go online and I'll show you where, and we'll do it that way.
I wish
Okay.
you were teaching at my school when I was a kid. You could have helped my GPA. Hold on.
Yeah, thank you, Daryl. Appreciate that. Okay. Yeah, I had to do an awful lot of PowerPoints and things. I had to teach PowerPoints to 8th graders. How to do PowerPoint. Let me tell you, they were faster and quicker and do all sorts of stuff. After I showed them the basics, boy, they went to town, and you'd be surprised what they could create. So, okay, well, at this time, Daryl, we're gonna let you introduce our guest today.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam President. Welcome for those of you who are at the comfort of home. And Dominic, I'm glad you could join us today as well. And Judy and Gus. And hello, fellow Kiwanians. My eyesight wasn't quite improved due to about the largest font I could squeeze on this one. It's often.
Daryl, you are very soft-spoken. You need to speak
It's,
up.
often, because you're closer. I'm not projecting there.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, is that better?
I think I have,
Is that doing it? Nope. All right. It was an effort. It didn't work though. That's fine.
There we go.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, thank you. Take two, we're ready now. It's interesting, the folks that we have across the threshold over the years to share their life story and their vision and their mission. And today, it gives me a great deal of pleasure to introduce our featured speaker. In today's increasingly complex and challenging times, many of us find ourselves facing more obstacles than ever before. Some of these may be minor, others earth-shattering, but most fall somewhere in between. Often these barriers distract us and or take us completely off the track that we're on to reach our goals. This has left the world in need of a new way of thinking, a new approach to life. And with this presentation entitled, that we'll be hearing more about, Creating an Out-of-Sight Mindset. Principles that take you from I can't to how I can. Creating an out-of-sight mindset can help you take on greater challenges with fearless yet realistic approach and find more creative solutions to overcoming the roadblocks that stand between us and our personal success, and develop an appreciation for the most difficult times in our lives. Our speaker today has been overcoming some of life's most difficult challenges since day one, whether it be being born legally blind, surviving a 5.5-month stay in a hospital, or helping his mother come back from a near-death accident. Redmond has chosen not to be defeated. Through this, he has pushed himself, found unique solutions, and somehow stayed remarkably upbeat the whole time. Well, I want to hear the secret to that. So please help me give a warm Kiwanis welcome to Redmond Cole.
You're good.
Ma'am, your baby is blind. Ma'am, your baby is blind. Ma'am, your baby is blind. This is what several doctors told my mom when I was only 2 months old. When I was first born and came home from the hospital, my mom noticed quickly that my eyes were having trouble staying focused on items, on objects. So she took me to my pediatrician, who referred me to an eye doctor. That eye doctor said, "Ma'am, your baby is blind. Here's what you do." But he couldn't explain why. So my mom took me to another doctor with the same feedback, the same response. Doctor after doctor after doctor repeated this to my mother until finally she found a doctor that was brave enough to say, "I don't know what's going on, but here's the name of the guy that will." She took me to that doctor when I was 2 months old, and that doctor, Dr. Hoyt, gave me what little vision I do have today. My name is Redmond Cole, and I have been overcoming obstacles and falling down for a long, long time now. And what I want to share with you today is how to create an out of sight mindset and give you 3 steps to get you from I can't to how can I. Now, when my mom actually found out what was going on, that I was in fact legally blind, and there was really no treatment for it, nothing that could be done. She had to figure out how she was going to raise a child who couldn't see. Most people, I think, in her position would have been very intimidated, very overwhelmed. However, she took me home and let me live the life of a very normal child. I grew up doing things like riding bikes, like playing sports, climbing trees, falling down, all the regular kid stuff. I just fell down a whole lot more than most kids did, right? But what that taught me what to do was how to get back up. In my life growing up, it was if you fall down, you get back up because that's what you do. Staying down was never an option. And this was the first element to what I call developing a Redmond mentality. Now, I came up with the term Redmond mentality because I really couldn't find any other words to describe what I was trying to say. Redmond mentality is a combination of the always getting back up no matter what happens, always pushing yourself, along with another element. So a very heavy presence in my life as a child was that of my Uncle Jeff. My Uncle Jeff basically played the father role in my life. And he was the one who ultimately taught me to push myself further than I would ever want to. The mentality was, if you're going to do something, don't set out to do it. Set out to do it the best that can be done. If you're going to climb a tree, climb to the top. If you're going to eat donuts on Sunday morning, try to eat 10, because that's what it is to push yourself. Obviously, I was never challenged to run a marathon when I wanted to run. That's a whole nother topic. But it was these 2 elements put together, the always get back up and the always push yourself further to try to do more, that combined to make what I call the Redmond mentality. Step number 1 in developing that out of sight mindset. So the Redmond mentality served me pretty well throughout my childhood, going through elementary school, on into middle school. However, when I was 12 years old, I started experiencing a situation where my hand started shaking when I would write papers in school. And this very quickly became progressively worse and worse, to where my mom, once again, took me to a doctor who said, I don't know what's going on, but let's talk to this doctor. That doctor thought it was Parkinson's disease and wanted to put me on medication, but couldn't explain why he thought that. Once again, my mom, being the incredible woman she is, said, you're not going to do that if you can't tell me why. And so he ordered a brain scan so we could actually see what was going on. We got those results back. And once again, my mom was told, I don't know what's going on here, but here's the name of somebody that will. Went to that doctor, and he sat us down and explained to us that I have a condition called hydrocephalus. Hydrocephalus is basically, in terms I can understand, excess fluid on the brain. That doctor explained that it's a fairly common condition, but it would require a brain surgery in order to treat or to regulate. So I had that one surgery to get put in place what is called a shunt. Basically, it's a little drain that goes from my head down to my stomach, helps regulate the fluid. Had that one surgery, everything went fine. I went back in for a follow-up scan about a month and a half later and came home on a Friday afternoon. Still remember it well. And there was a message on the answering machine. This was back when we had answering machines with little blinking lights, you know? And there was a message from the doctor saying, I just got into the office. I just looked at the scans and something isn't right. I've booked an operating room for Monday morning
Oh,
and you need to be there. Obviously, right? So I went back in on that Monday morning. That was October 4th, 1998. Went in on October 4th for what was supposed to be one more surgery. And I got to go home mid-March of 1999. During that time, that one more brain surgery turned into 10 more. After the 5th surgery, went into what was basically a coma. My brain had been through so much trauma and, back and forth that basically I went to sleep and stayed that way for 2.5 months. Most people hear that and they say, oh my God, that must have been horrible. For me, the answer to that is actually I got lucky because that 2.5 months where I was asleep was actually the toughest of the 5 months that I was in the hospital. I had 5 more brain surgeries, experienced a grand mal surgery, or grand mal seizure rather, and stayed at a total of 5 different hospitals in the stay. When I eventually did wake up, I had to learn how to walk again. Because I had spent so much time in bed that all the muscles in my legs had atrophied. So the last month and a half of my stay in the hospital was spent learning how to do the most basic things, learning how to walk, learning how to function. But with the Redmond mentality, saying, 1, you always get back up. And then 2, having to push myself further than I thought I could, further than I had. Just turns out that that comes in really handy while you're going through therapy, right? But finally, I got to go home and I got to go back to regular life, got to live that Redmond mentality. In high school, I discovered a passion for cooking and the culinary arts, which led me to my senior year of high school taking a vocational program, like a half day kind of thing, fairly common. And I got to meet one of the most significant people in my life at that point. My culinary arts teacher, my senior year of high school, her name's Michelle, somebody I still keep in touch with, now 17 years after graduating high school. The first day of class, I was actually put into the construction class because I was told that, you have to pick a second option and it's not going to matter what you have to put it. So I actually had to go and basically beg Michelle to let me into her class. And she said, well, let me ask you a couple questions. Can you see me? I said, well, I can see you. I couldn't tell you what color your eyes were or anything like that. And she says, well, okay, we can work with that. She says, can you see the clock on the wall? I said, I can see the clock. I think it's about 8:30. She was like, it's close enough, And then she let me into her class. And she introduced me to a school called Johnson & Wales University. Mm-hmm. And Michelle explained that she has had students every year that she's taught culinary compete in a national high school recipe contest. And in that contest, the winners get a full scholarship ride to Johnson & Wales. And that set lights off for me, right? Thought I had found my calling. So I said, I want to enter that contest. Now I just have to figure out what to make. So after a couple weeks of experimenting with some stuff. I landed on something. It was a Mexican chocolate cake with an amaretto pastry cream, fresh raspberries, and a nice little caramel crunch to garnish. And that ended up being good enough to get me into the finals of the contest. I competed in the finals, which were held here in Denver. I originally grew up in San Jose, California. And I ended up taking second place in the country. Now, what Michelle ultimately helped me do was, when she would tell people about me, she always said, Red never says I can't. Red says, how can I? The second step, the second principle in developing the out of sight mindset. Always asking yourself, how can I? I know we now live in a world where we are encouraged to not focus on how, but ask what your why is, why you do anything. But as soon as you figure out what that why is, what does your brain do? Starts trying to figure out how. So that's why, to me, how can I is more significant. It's the actual function, it's the purpose. It's what makes our why happen. How can I? So, like I said, I took second place, won some pretty significant scholarship money to Johnson & Wales, moved out to Denver, Colorado, which is now still home. Consider myself as being from here. And graduated culinary school, graduated with my bachelor's degree, having all 10 fingers, something I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
I was actually the first blind student to graduate at the Johnson & Wales Denver campus, something I'm very proud of. And I got to go on and pursue many things after graduating from there. I did the culinary thing for a while, but you learn quickly that spending 80 hours a week in a 120-degree kitchen, maybe not all it's cracked up to be.
It's a hard life.
Very hard life. And I was fortunate enough to learn a lot of things about myself in Johnson & Wales, that I have some other skills that I pursued as well. Now, I graduated from there in 2008. As everybody knows, the economy seemed to stop existing for a while. And that led me to kind of randomly getting into radio, which I did for a while. And then I got into sales after that. But the next thing that all led up to was December of 2016. It was December 11th. It was a Sunday morning. I was laying in bed. So, full disclosure, I am one of those millennial kids who still lives at home with their mom. You know, it is what it is. But like I said, December 11th, I was laying in bed that morning. My mom had just started dating a new guy. And so she was out at his house in Bennett, Colorado. It started snowing that morning. So she decided to drive back early. On that drive back, at a, I guess, pretty well-known point for accidents, she hit some black ice. She spun out, bounced off the guardrail a couple times, and I left her facing the wrong way. Nobody knows exactly the chain of events that went down, but she ended up making a U-turn to try to get in the correct position from what she could tell. And as she was doing that, there were 3 semis coming down the hill towards her. The first semi ran off the road to avoid hitting her, probably saving her life. The second semi got her right in the driver's door. She was airlifted to Swedish hospital, and that was the call I got that morning, was from the chaplain at Swedish hospital, letting me know that she'd been in an accident and that I needed to get down there as soon as possible. When I got there, I found out that she had suffered a traumatic brain injury. Both of her lungs were collapsed and punctured, as well as having a pelvis broken in 3 different places. Now, somehow, my mom is not made of what you and I are probably made out of. She is not of this human world that we know because she's still here. She's actually at work right now. But what that meant was I got to play caregiver for the better part of a year. So she stayed at Swedish Hospital for 9 days. And then after that, she was transferred to a rehab hospital where she, much like I did, had to learn how to walk again, how to do those basic things. And just as a side note, like I said, this happened in December. And she was transferred to the rehab hospital on December 21st. When I heard this, I was actually excited because my first response was, we get to do Christmas in the hospital. I have always heard the stories of when I was in the hospital as a kid and what it was like for everybody else to do Christmas in the hospital while I was asleep in bed. But I was excited because I got to pay that forward, if you will, in a weird way, albeit. But it was at that rehab hospital that she went to that I saw incredible things happen. I didn't see my mom and other people struggling to do basic things again. I saw people who had the opportunity to begin to get back to where they were. And I saw a staff of people who were committed to doing that. I got to see the beauty in the struggle. And that is the third step to developing an out of sight mindset. The beauty in the struggle. No matter who we are, whether you've been run over by a semi, or maybe you've just had a tough day at work. Maybe you go out to a restaurant and you have to wait a little longer than you wanted to. You can always find a beauty, a purpose, something that you have learned in those most difficult times. Because when times are good, you don't have to worry about anything, right? Everything is going easy, you have a smile on your face, and you don't really have to think at all. But it's in those most trying times that we learn who we are. That's what makes us us. You know, this reminds me of one of my favorite memories from childhood. Like I said earlier, I grew up in San Jose, California, in the Bay Area. And my family, we like to take hikes now and then. And we would often go to a place in the Santa Cruz Mountains, beautiful, kind of like almost rainforesty kind of feel with giant redwood trees. And we would go to the park called Capitola Park. And this one particular day, we went on a hike to a destination called Fifth Hill Falls. It was a fairly short hike that ended at this beautiful waterfall. It was maybe, 20 feet tall and fell down into this beautiful splash pool. So we got to that splash pool. And I remember we were playing around, wading in the water, trying to catch tadpoles. I was there with my mom and my aunt and uncle and my cousins. And we saw another group of people actually out in the water. And a few of them were trying to go and stand under the waterfall. One would get kind of close and then come back out. And did that a few times. And at this point in my life, I was about 10 years old. My obsession then in life was to be seen as a man in my Uncle Jeff's eyes. Like I said earlier, he was the father figure in my life. And it was important to me that I try my best. I push myself as far as I can, right? The Redmond mentality, to be seen as a man in his eyes. And he saw me looking out at the people trying to get under the waterfall. And he pulled me aside and said, "Hey, do you want to be a man? I'll tell you what. You go out and stand under that waterfall You raise your hands like this and you yell, "I'm a man." And I will call you a man for the rest of the day. Right then, I knew exactly what I was going to do, right? I was going to go out under that waterfall. I was going to raise my hands and yell, "I'm a man." The only problem was I actually got all the way in the water and it was like ice cold. I was freezing, I was like almost shivering. And then I started going out towards the waterfall, and all of a sudden it got so deep I could barely stand on my tippy toes. So I make my way out there. And the first time I get out there, I get pretty close, but I'm like, if I just really sell it, right? He'll probably think it was good enough anyway. So I did it. And he yelled out at me. He was like, "You're not under there. You got to get all the way under there and do it. You got to earn this." So I turned back around and had to actually find a couple rocks to balance on because the water was too deep, right? Most people wouldn't send their child out to do this. Most people, especially, wouldn't send their disabled child out to do something like this. But he knew that it was important that I do it exactly the way it was laid out. And I did. I managed to get all the way under the waterfall. And it was this almost disorienting thing because you got water pouring on you. And I was shivering like this, but I got my hands up and somehow I managed to get out in my, much younger voice, "I'm a man." And for the rest of the day, he called me a man. As I sat shivering on the car ride home because I had no clothes to change out of or into. And as my mom was looking at me, basically asking me what the heck I was thinking. It didn't matter because Uncle Jeff called me a man. Now, a lot of you may be thinking, it's a great story, but how does this apply to me? Right? How does this apply to the Kiwanis? The Kiwanis Club, I know your mission is to support children to better their lives. So my challenge to you would be, how can you use the 3 principles of the out of sight mindset? The Redmond mentality, asking how can I, and finding the beauty in the struggle. How can you inspire a child out there to develop that mentality to become the best they can? And maybe more significantly, how can you be the Uncle Jeff to a child out there? Thank you.
At this time, is there any questions that anybody has?
Any questions? Covered a lot of ground. I'm all pumped up.
Is Uncle Jeff still alive?
Uncle Jeff is still alive.
And mom's doing well?
Mom is, like I said, at work right now.
What's she do?
She actually works with young kids. She's a early education teacher. So she's, like I said, not of this world. And she's been, I say selflessly doing that, but she's been doing that for longer than I've been alive. So I am, needless to say, extremely proud of her.
Okay, Max?
So this isn't to put you on the spot at all. But
Okay.
You've obviously have a tremendous story and very successful. So are you working with any kids or youngsters and helping them through their journeys that may be harder than the typical child?
So here's the thing. Right now, the answer to that is no. What I've actually been doing over the past couple of years, and to give you some hope towards that, I actually hope to start speaking to kids like elementary age who are in, and I don't even know the politically acceptable term anymore, but when I was in school, it was special ed, or types of environments like that. Kids who are facing whatever physical disability developmentally, what have you, to share my story, to let them know that they too can achieve what they want. But currently I do run a support group for people with dizziness issues, because that was the lasting effect from my mom's accident for me. I became very close with her physical therapist, and I now get to run a support group that meets a couple times a quarter to help people going through what are known as vestibular issues.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah,
Good for you.
thank you.
I've got another question, kind of a silly question.
Sure.
But now because of all the modern technology with Chromebooks and computers and things that have changed over the years,
Yep.
do you find yourself doing more with the technology than you do with paper and pencil as far as writing?
Yes, and there's a simple reason for that. I have horrible handwriting. So the communication I do actually engage in is done electronically.
Okay,
And I'm gonna guess that the follow-up question is, how does that work? So I have a software program that basically allows me to magnify images on the screen to like up to 36 times the size,
okay.
but I use it somewhere around 10. But with that being said, I also have the challenge to overcome of not really being tech savvy.
Okay, is there any other questions?
I'd just like to say thank you for being you, and for having the most amazing mom and God bless you and your family.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Okay, does anybody online here that's on the Zoom have any questions? Okay, Dominic?
Hey, Redmond, do you want to tell them what you're up to this today? Like what you're up to, like what you do for a living and
Oh, like
a little bit about you today? I was telling Kathy yesterday that you're incredible and you've always inspired me when we were in the master networks together and you would travel to the meetings and you'd meet
Yeah.
everybody there. Can you let them know who you are today and what you're doing? Because you do a lot.
I will do that. So I actually met Dominic about a couple of years ago now. We were in another networking group called Master Networks together, the Wheat Ridge chapter. And we met at 7:30 in the morning on Wednesday mornings. And I live out in Aurora, Colorado, other side of town, which meant that in order for me to get to that 7 o'clock meeting, I was catching the bus at like 5:38 in the morning and then traveling all that way to make it out to the meeting. But when I find a group of people that I connect with, I'll do whatever it takes to get to that group, right? Plus, I've also learned that being in the mortgage business, it's hard to find a spot in those networking groups. So I'll do whatever it takes. But ultimately, it was that group that was the motivation and the drive for making me want to get up that early, keep going every week. And then I'm also in the mortgage business. I'm sure you all know, like, statistically, each of you know like 2 million other mortgage lenders out there. So we don't really need to talk about that. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm up to today.
Tell them your tagline with your mortgage business. I've never forgot it. And there's a lot of realtors in that group, so tell them your tagline.
Okay. Oh man, he's putting me on the spot now because I haven't
I
thought
know,
of
sorry.
in quite a while. Okay, Dom. For the sake of not dragging this out too long, can you throw it out for me?
You'll handle any situation, big or small. You don't like, you're just passionate about helping people.
Everybody's time is worth it. Everybody has their struggle. Everybody needs a solution. I just have maybe a little more experience in trying to find those crazy solutions to problems that everybody has.
And if I might make a comment, please.
Yeah.
This is Judy Saba, Redmond. I'd like to make a comment. I've been privileged to have Redmond referred to me by a fellow speaker. His name is Chris Natsky, and he'll get a copy of this recording. I spoke for your group a couple of weeks ago, and I've really enjoyed being in contact with Daryl a lot. And I am privileged to be Redmond's coach in this endeavor. And we have been making progress like I have not ever seen before. This guy is so passionate and so committed to his purpose and moving forward with it. It's just an incredible experience for me to work with you, Redmond. And I really applaud you for what you've done today. I'm so happy and proud for you, and so happy and proud to be your coach.
Well, thank you, Judy, for those words of wisdom. That's really nice to see some other person helping another person. That's really right down the Kiwanis lane right here, as far as we're all in it to help others. And as I've always said, Judy, you're welcome to join our group anytime via Zoom or in person at the IHOP. Same with Redmond. You are more than welcome to join us because we're a very friendly and hardworking group. So just to let you know that.
I would ask for one more favor. There's a guy on this Zoom meeting. His name is Gus Philpott.
Okay.
He's been a friend of mine for at least 40 years and lived in Lakewood 50 years ago. And Gus, I'd like you to just share your thoughts a little bit, because Gus is joining us from Columbia, South Carolina today.
Ah.
Well, I'm happy to be here. Greetings to all. Redmond, greetings to you especially. Well, as I sat here, and thanks to Judy's invitation, I sent a little chat message to her saying it was a little over 50 years ago. I can't believe it, that I moved from Chicago to Denver and lived in Lakewood and Green Mountain. So I feel like I'm back home today. And Redmond, I've known quite a number of speakers. I know Judy, I knew Joe. I helped Mitchell write his first public speaking brochure in 1987, and I hope the last copy has been destroyed. But one of the things that Joe Saba and I encouraged Mitchell to do was join the National Speakers Association. As a result of that membership, he met many national and international speakers. And you have the qualities, Redmond, to zoom right to the top. Thank you for your talk today.
Quick question for you. You're in Columbia, South Carolina?
I am.
How far is that from Macon, Georgia?
From where?
Macon, Georgia.
Yeah.
It's about probably 240 miles, perhaps. Macon is southwest of Columbia.
Okay. Because I'm going to be going out to South Carolina soon. A good friend of mine is back there. And he lives in another smaller town that begins with a C that I now can't think of the name of, but I always confuse it with Columbia. So, but perhaps you and I can connect when I do make it up.
I would love to meet you, and I offer my car and offer myself as a driver, and we'll be happy to meet with you anywhere at any time. And Judy will give you my phone number and contact information.
I look forward.
I look forward to it. Thank you, Redmond.
Thanks, Gus.
Also want to welcome our guests, Shirley and Steve Otto, that have joined us for our speaker today. And Deanne, I'm not sure who that is up on the screen. It says Deanne. Okay, we have a mystery guest on there with us. So welcome also.
Yes, I have a
and then-
question of you. I'm gonna stand next to the big friend here, Redmond. I know that London sold a bridge to Cape Tapestry,
Yep.
but I didn't realize San Francisco sold a bridge to the Carolinas. Looks like the Golden Gate behind you there.
Oh, yeah, it's background.
Yeah, and it looks like a sunrise. Welcome to our group. Gosh.
Steve or Shirley, do you have any questions? No? Okay. Well, at this time, our club normally, every speaker that comes gets a little souvenir from us. But in this case, if you cannot use it or don't want to, you can use it as a Christmas gift.
Excellent. It's a journal where you can capture whatever inspires you. Helps you through those 3 steps, through everything in your faith.
I will find a new creative way
Okay.
to input information in
Okay,
here.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll let you have lunch at this point. Dominic, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Now, I was gonna say, Dominic just had a kidney infection, and Dominic has had what, a liver and a kidney transplant?
Yes.
And so he got an infection. So he was in the hospital this week and just got out yesterday. So our division meeting for Kiwanis, he did from his hospital room before he was dismissed. So you talk about a dedicated Kiwani in here that, you know, no matter where you are, you could always plug in and zoom on. So very good, Dominic. I really commend you on doing that yesterday. I'll let my group next week know what all we talked about in the division meeting. And at this time, unless there's any other questions, I'm going to let everybody enjoy lunch and dismiss our meeting a little early. So everybody have a good week and enjoy this weekend's warm weather that we're supposed to get. So, meeting is now adjourned. Did you want to stay longer, Dominic? Or otherwise I'll end it. And Maurice, welcome back. Hopefully next weekend we have a board meeting.
And one of these weeks you can join us.
And one of these weeks, we want you to join us if you've had your vaccine. So we'll see when we get you out of the house. Okay.
Dominic, you're muted, so we can't hear what you're trying to say.
Dominic, did you say something? You're muted. No?
Did you tell them all about the save the date for the installation dinner?
I will. But I'm going to
Sounds
cover
good.
it next week.
All right.
Because we'd already talked about it earlier and agreed to it, so that's not a problem.
You have a good group there today.
Yes, very good turnout.
See you guys later.
Okay, bye-bye. Maurice, anything you want to tell the group since we're the last ones on?
If you can hear me,
We can hear you.
I took a fall here recently, banged myself up,
Oh,
but
no.
nothing broke. And I'm okay. I'm just recovering. So,
Okay, well, if you need anything, just call upon us. You're only a few streets away.
yeah.
We do delivery,
Okay. Thank you, Kathy.
especially Jen and I. We're on the road. Delivery girls, yes.
And my computer was more or less cooperating today too, so that helps. So
Well,
anyway,
that's very good.
best
So I
wishes.
don't have to eat in front of you. I'll just go ahead and end the meeting then.
Okay. Best wishes to you all.
And we'll see you next week for our 11 o'clock board meeting.
11 o'clock. Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.